20 years ago, the Republican Party wrapped itself in the Gadsden flag and screamed, "Don't tread on me," like it was a sacred constitutional commandment. It was the era of small government, personal liberty, skepticism of federal power, and deep suspicion of executive overreach. Conservatives warned that surveillance was authoritarianism, that federal agencies were jackbooted thugs, and that any expansion of state power was a step toward dystopia. Fast forward to today. And that same political tribe now demands obedience to a single man, cheers the expansion of federal law enforcement, defends mass surveillance when it targets the right people, and treats dissent as betrayal. Somewhere along the way, "Don't tread on me," quietly morphed into "do what you're told." And the irony is so thick, you could spread it on toast. Let's rewind to the Tea Party era, around 2009 to 2012. This movement framed itself as a grassroots rebellion against government overreach. It claimed to be about the Constitution, individual liberty, fiscal restraint, and the dangers of an imperial presidency. Obama's every executive order was treated like a coup attempt. Federal agencies were portrayed as tyrants. The Gadsden flag wasn't just merch. It was a symbol of personal sovereignty and resistance to centralized power. The rhetoric was apocalyptic. If we let the government regulate healthcare, freedom dies. If we expand surveillance, freedom dies. If we bail out banks, freedom dies. Millions of Republicans genuinely believed they were standing on the last line of defense between America and authoritarianism. Then came Trump, and overnight, the entire ideology collapsed into a personality cult. Suddenly, the same people who spent a decade warning about executive tyranny were cheering, "Only I can fix it." Suddenly, skepticism of government power became conditional on who was wielding it. When Trump attacked courts, discredited elections, threatened the press, and demanded personal loyalty from public officials, those moves weren't seen as authoritarian. They were reframed as fighting the deep state. The principles didn't evolve. They inverted. Small government became weaponized government. Constitutional originalism became selective obedience. Liberty became loyalty. What replaced ideology wasn't conservatism. It was tribal obedience. The modern MAGA movement doesn't operate on a policy platform so much as a loyalty framework. If Trump does it, it's justified. If institutions oppose Trump, they're corrupt. If a Republican criticizes Trump, they're a rhino traitor. And rhino isn't just an insult. It's an enforcement mechanism. Ask Liz Cheney. Ask Adam Kinzinger. Ask Mitt Romney. The message is clear. Disagreement is disloyalty, and disloyalty is political death. This is where the 1984 energy stops being a meme and starts feeling like a diagnosis. Orwell's dystopia wasn't just about surveillance or censorship. It was about obedience culture. It was about doublethink, the ability to hold two contradictory beliefs at the same time and treat both as true. MAGA doublethink is everywhere. We support small government, they say, while cheering mass deportations, militarized policing, and the expansion of ICE. We believe in law and order, they say, while justifying political violence and threatening judges. We defend free speech, they say, while banning books, intimidating teachers, and labeling dissent as treason. The contradictions don't matter, because coherence isn't the point anymore. Loyalty is. This shift didn't happen in a vacuum. It happened inside a closed-loop media ecosystem that slowly trained millions of people to distrust every institution except the leader. Fox News became Newsmax. Newsmax became Truth Social. Truth Social became a self-reinforcing narrative bunker. Every scandal is fake news. Every prosecution is a conspiracy. Every loss is rigged. Reality itself became negotiable. In that environment, skepticism stopped being a tool for challenging power and became a tool for defending it. The most revealing part of this transformation is how casually small government conservatives now cheer the expansion of the surveillance and enforcement state. Real ID? Suddenly fine. Mass deportations? Necessary? Militarized policing? Patriotic? Protest crackdowns? Law and order? ICE raids? Based? Surveillance? Only bad when Democrats do it.
The same people who once warned that a national ID system was the mark of the beast now shrug when the government builds databases of citizens and tracks dissent. Government overreach is bad, unless it's aimed at people MAGA doesn't like. What we're watching isn't conservatism evolving. It's conservatism dissolving. Reagan conservatism had an ideology. Bush conservatism had a doctrine. Tea Party conservatism had at least a rhetorical framework. MAGA conservatism has vibes. It has grievance. It has loyalty tests. It has merch. It has no coherent economic doctrine beyond tax cuts and tariffs. It has no consistent foreign policy beyond strongman good, allies annoying. It has no stable definition of freedom beyond whatever Trump says today. The phrase "don't treat on me" now functions as hollow branding. Who MAGA actually doesn't want tread on is Trump, the police, and corporations. Who MAGA is perfectly fine being tread on is protesters, immigrants, dissenters, journalists, and anyone who questions the leader. The old libertarian energy didn't die because it was disproven. It died because it became inconvenient. Liberty is messy. Loyalty is simple. Liberty requires skepticism. Loyalty requires obedience. This obedience culture is the real danger, not Trump himself. Leaders come and go. Cultures linger. Once people accept that political truth flows from a single figure, democratic norms collapse fast. Once people internalize the idea that just trust the leader is patriotism, constitutional limits become optional. Once dissent is framed as treason, freedom of thought becomes a liability. The real test of this movement isn't what it does when things are stable. It's what it will do when a real crisis hits. A terror attack, a financial collapse, a border incident, a war escalation. Those are the moments when obedience culture gets weaponized. Those are the moments when emergency powers become permanent. Those are the moments when, for your safety, becomes the justification for everything. Conclusion. From liberty to loyalty. Orwell didn't write 1984 as a prophecy. He wrote it as a warning. Freedom doesn't die in one dramatic law. It dies when people trade principles for loyalty and skepticism for obedience. It dies when "don't tread on me" becomes "do what you're told." And that's the uncomfortable truth MAGA doesn't want to face. The Republican Party didn't just drift away from libertarian principles, it flipped them. The same people who once screamed about tyranny are now cheering it, as long as it wears a red hat. The Gadsden flag still flies, but the snake has been declawed. And somewhere along the way, the party of freedom decided that obedience feels safer than liberty.